What's the most naughty thing you've seen happen in a workplace? Story 1. I managed a bar 2 years ago. I had this girl that bartended for me who would go missing on camera all the time. I had them cameras everywhere inside. She'd just disappear for half an hour at a time. I investigated. I was pretty close with a lot of the regulars, small family-owned place in a suburb, and came to find out that she had been, offering intercourse for money. Soliciting intercourse from behind my bar. She was gone shortly thereafter. I couldn't fire her for something that I couldn't prove. I ended up letting her go for neglecting to fulfill her duties as a bartender. She was written up for multiple occasions of leaving the bar customers unattended, and that was enough to get her the hell out. I don't know if that could somehow fall back on me or the bar, but I was not interested in finding out. Story 2. Worked in an emergency room, and I can tell you that a good number of the nurses and paramedics were having affairs and just having rampant intercourse with each other. I remember one specific time walking by a patient room and just hearing intercourse sounds. A few minutes later, a disheveled nurse and firefighter came strolling back to the nurses' station. A different type of naughty, one of the ER physicians was busted for having alcohol in his big gulp while working. Another time, we discovered one nurse in the bathroom half passed out with a needle in her arm. County hospitals are awesome. We had a girl give her boyfriend, who was fully cathed, a handy. His heart rate went up, and when the nurse went in to check on him, she got quite the surprise. Story 3. Work in a hospital ER. Had a patient come in for vaginal pain. Worked her up and positioned her in the stirrup so the doctor could come in and do a quick pelvic exam. Right after I did that, a critical patient came in that required the doc's attention for a while. After about 20 minutes, I went back into the pelvic exam patient's room to apologize for the wait and put the stirrups back down so she could lay normally until the doctor had time to examine her. I walked into her boyfriend on his knees in front of her, eating her out, asked him what the hell he was doing, and he told me he just couldn't resist with her in that position. I escorted him to the waiting room and told security he wasn't allowed back in. Turns out she had chlamydia. Shocker. Story 4. I worked at a Nissan dealership located at a busy intersection in my city back in the early 2000s. One of the younger car salesmen was trying to sell a new car to a woman who looked to be in her 40s. It was going well, they were working on closing the deal, so I take a break and walk to the back car lot for a smoke to find the salesman wedged between two cars amongst a row of cars with the woman he was selling a car to on her knees giving him a BJ. I was in complete shock. She never stopped and he just smiled and gave me a thumbs up. I am a 36-year-old female and still think of this one often enough. Did he finish the sale? And if so, did he get a big cut for finishing it? I don't know if he finished the sale, but apparently OP's presence didn't stop them from finishing other stuff. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Also, I've got to say, is this a service offered by most dealerships? Could I get a discount on my next checkup, you think? Story 5. At my gym, a hired trainer ran out of the bathroom butt naked, D in hand, stroking and screaming at the top of his lungs. He blew the most ridiculous-sized load I've ever seen on the preacher curl machine. Then fell over and passed out. The police and paramedics had to be called, and after they took the guy and did what they needed to do at the scene, the gym manager had to clean up the massive load off the machine. I skipped my class and just hung out there because I wanted to see how it all played out. Story 6. I worked in a cemetery for years. I remember one of the funeral directors was banging a receptionist, and one night she met him out in the wall crypts, and the security guard caught them with my homie's pants down. Naughty and hilarious. Side note, he was engaged to someone else who worked there. The fireworks were legendary. Do tell! He bribed the security guard not to tell, but his girlfriend eventually found out. She wasn't really big on self-esteem and forgave him, but one day the receptionist said good morning to her, and the girlfriend basically told her in the middle of the lobby, "B, don't you ever look at me in my effing eyes or I'll rip yours out." Story 7. A bonding day for the entire production staff. It's basically 4 to 6 hours at a hotel with access to the pool, gym, sports fields, and a few organized activities that are aimed to raise morale. Now, you're not supposed to bring alcohol. In fact, it's technically forbidden, but as long as you're not a complete moron, the management looks the other way. Walk into a toilet to see one woman and 3 guys going at it. It was definitely consensual. I wasn't the first one to see it and wasn't the last, too drunk to realize that they should probably lock the door at least. Management looked the other way. I mean, are we sure management wasn't involved? Who's to say? You get 4 people all tangled together in the bathroom, you might miss that suddenly a manager has managed to get some intercourse. What am I doing? Story 8. I worked in a crusty movie theater when I was an innocent 16-year-old. Here is a summary of the caught I saw people my age doing. Storing liquor bottles in the ice chest, snorting painkillers off the sink, dipping balls or spitting in the popcorn. Workers doing it in theaters, closet, parking lots. Cleaners popping ecstasy before their shift, smoking weed behind the dumpster. Managers selling drugs for employees to do on their shift. Employee parties held in our 25-year-old manager's trailer. He supplied the alcohol for all the high schoolers. Cans of graffiti remover next to popcorn bags lying around the back. It was common for them to be taken out and huffed. Story 9. This coworker was really into me. I just didn't like her like that, but I guess she got desperate, so she goes to where I'm working in the building, and she literally just flashes her tits in front of me in the middle of the day and walks away. I worked with a chick with big boobs, but everything else about her was meh. Most of the guys were into her, but I wasn't. Had a girlfriend at the time. So she would flash me too, I guess, trying to make me fall under the same spell she had the rest of the guys under. She was weird. Never underestimate the power of indifference, especially around people who derive their self-worth through the validation of others. Story 10. Small company. Had this woman in her 30s working in accounting. Not very attractive, heavy smoker with a voice to match, a bit trashy, but she was funny, friendly, and generally a good person. She found some photos of me online, which I guess she liked. She showed them to the coworkers, I guess for craps and giggles. I walk in, she shows me a printout of one of the photos. The HR lady is standing right next. The unattractive woman says very loudly to me, "Let's have intercourse." HR lady's eyes went, "Ugh." Then she just shook her head and walked away defeated. I laughed it off. Didn't have intercourse with her. I'm gonna be that guy. There's no way in hell that would be acceptable if the genders were reversed. I'm gonna be this guy, the mainly facts guy, and say that there's no way that's acceptable with the genders being what they are, or in fact any combination of genders. I don't much like anyone in this story, frankly. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 11. A male client jumped on me and started licking me everywhere. I work at a vet though, so it's okay. Story 12. Once I caught one of the cleaning ladies getting banged by our barman in a refrigerated cell. They were both naked and going at it while under 0 degrees Celsius. Story 13. A well-qualified female was promoted to be a line supervisor at a manufacturing facility I worked at years ago. One of the men on the line was rather upset that he'd have to be reporting to a woman. When the newly promoted line supervisor was making her first review/inspection of the line, he dropped his pants and underpants and waved his D at her in defiance. Her first administrative act as supervisor was to terminate his employment. Story 14. I walked into the office kitchen and had a female work colleague take off her top and ask me what I thought of her breasts. I was a bit blindsided by this and said, "I've only come for a cup of tea." This girl is young enough to be my daughter. A few days later, she came into my office, wiggled her bum at me, and asked me what I thought of her bum. That girl just doesn't take a hint. Obviously, she just needs to dress up as a teabag because that's all you'll come for. Story 15. We had a row of 10 or so porta potties that started swaying uncontrollably. Turns out a couple decided that a porta potty is a discreet place to hook up. Story 16. Once I walked in on one of my patients having intercourse with her boyfriend. She had given birth vaginally 6 hours earlier. Okay, I don't know a ton about human procreation, but those things need a little recovery time, right? I know they snap back, but give the little fella a break. Story 17. Worked at a place that had a boardroom that overlooked the factory. The boardroom windows were covered in mirror vinyl, and usually it's brighter in the factory than the boardroom, so you can't see it from the factory. After work, it's getting dark, so the lights in the boardroom are brighter than the factory, so the effect is reversed, and you can see everything in the boardroom from the factory, but can't see the factory from inside the boardroom. That's when the CEO walks into the boardroom and F's a receptionist on the boardroom table with a whole bunch of factory workers watching. This is great. Did anyone cheer or clap? Story 18. We got a 60-year-old rich married white lady blowing a homeless guy in our bathroom during Fantasy Fest while her husband waited outside. In her defense, I don't think she knew he was homeless. Story 19. Friend was a plumber. He was installing a water heater on the roof with his assistant. He was on the roof and the assistant was fetching him tools and passing them up the ladder. After a while, he asked his assistant for something and realized he wanted to go there. So he climbed down the ladder to see what he found. Found him effing the homeowner's maid on the kitchen table. They just met about 1 hour earlier. What the hell? Is this an adult film from the 70s? Hey, I'm the plumber. I'm here to fix your pipes. Oh, but I am only the maid. Perhaps I could help you by cleaning your pipe. Story 20. Walked in on my boss boning the HR director in his office. My next review and raise were the best I ever had. I'm reporting this to HR, whispers an HR director's ear mid-coitus. You're having intercourse with the boss. Story 21. I'm a teacher, and one day walking past the headmaster's office, I heard some very distinctive moans. Well, if they're the headmaster, it's bound to be good. Story 22. A guy was watching adult entertainment on his laptop during anti-sexual harassment training. Story 23. I walked in on 2 coworkers having intercourse. The guy just said, "Hey, what's up?" like it was nothing. Sadly, it didn't work out for them. He pulled a gun on her in the parking lot a few months later. Honorable mention to the time I caught an employee getting fingered by a customer in a stairwell. Story 24. Guy took a crap from a 100-foot lattice tower. When you hear laying hot asphalt from a lineman, you scatter, LOL. AKA the sky dump. Story 25. A woman I worked with could be a little restless. We worked evenings and were relatively unsupervised. She occasionally would do exercises to burn off energy. She did a handstand against the wall once and her titty popped out. I don't think she knew I saw, but I saw. I saw your titty, D. Story 26. Went to a couple in the bar I was covering to ask if they wanted a picture. The woman was short of breath and the guy just said no. I ask the woman if she's okay and she nods and I walk off. I look back and see the guy furiously fingering her under the table. You know what? Good for them. That sounds like a lovely night out. Still, can't imagine why they didn't want to capture that moment on camera. Maybe they just wanted you to come back when she was ready. Story 27. Chick I worked with showed us her boobs. That was pretty nice of her. A hot little 4'6" tall girl I worked with used to take her boobs out to show off her nipple rings. Story 28. People handling asbestos without any of the necessary safety equipment, from cleaning up a burnt-out building. Story 29. I cleaned pools over the summer, and apparently the client did not tell their teenage son we were coming because when we got there, we found him asleep by the pool butt naked with a little boner. I have never seen someone run inside faster. You saved him from a horrific sunburn, honestly. Story 30. One of my coworkers loved to wear miniskirts and go commando. I know this because our cubicle desks didn't have vanity panels, and her desk faced mine across an aisle. I didn't spend my time trying to look, mind you, but when she got on her hands and knees one day to check the wiring on her PC, it was hard not to notice. She was also either a natural redhead or very thorough. She knew. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.